G'day and welcome to Videodrome Cinema.
Today I'm talking about some of my favourite books and some of the books that are out now. These are Wuthering Heights, Twilight Saga, 50 Shades of Grey, Crossfire series, Romeo and Juliet, and Jane Eyre, just for good measure. If you listened to the previous installment, you heard me talking about cognitive dissonance. Now I'm going to continue by talking about the dependency, unhealthy relationship aspect presented with these couples. First, what is dependency or codependency? In a healthy relationship, there are consenting adults who are individuals who are independently capable of standing on their own 2 feet. Each person is capable of loving themselves and are then in turn capable of believing that somebody else loves them. Neither lacks self-esteem, neither believe that they don't deserve better than an abuser or an unhealthy relationship. In a healthy relationship, if the guy is an alpha, he doesn't abuse said relationship. A man woos to get his heart's desire, an abuser takes. A Byronic man is described as a man proud, moody, cynical, with defiance on his brow and misery in his heart, a scorner of his kind, implacable in his revenge, yet capable of deep and strong affection. Mr. Rochester of Jane Eyre, Heathcliff, Edward, Christian, all alphas. Christian and Edward maybe not so Byronic, but they try to be. Catherine and Heathcliff are codependent. Just 2 quotes. If all else perished and he remained, I should still continue to be. And if all else remained and he were annihilated, the universe would turn to a mighty stranger, says Catherine. Catherine Earnshaw, may you not rest as long as I am living. You said I killed you. Haunt me then. The murdered do haunt their murderers. I believe, I know that ghosts have wandered the earth. Be with me always. Take any form. Drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you. O God, it is unutterable. I cannot live without my life. I cannot live without my soul. That's what Heathcliff says. Bella and Edward are also codependent, and Stephenie Meyer kind of couldn't be bothered coming up with her own way to describe this codependent love, so she used the above quotes, and maybe added a little something about satellites and gravitating towards each other. Bella's mum says, he moves, you move. So Anastasia, in 50 Shades, is dependent. She accepts his abuse and goes back to him in the second and third books. Then he kind of becomes a whiny dependent, and they live happily ever after. Whether it's physically abusive anymore in the second and third book is still up for debate, but it definitely still is emotionally abusive, especially with the whole having kids, her getting pregnant thing. Okay, so the third way we can analyze these books is the actual message of them. For the longest time, society has been teaching girls that boys will be boys, don't dress in short skirts, don't go off with boys, don't accept open drinks, because then we're a whore and you're kind of just asking for it. And a guy, on the other hand, is great the more conquests he has. Characters in film and books give us girls options. Kind of, there's like a good girl that plays hard to get. There's one type of character. But then you run the risk of being called frigid or cocktease. And then there's the other character that kind of enjoys sex, and she's the whore. It's slut shaming. It's not a new thing. Why can a boy show his nipples at the beach, a 5-year-old, when a little girl has to cover herself up, or the parents have to cover her up? Boys need to be taught that consent doesn't end when a girl says no. Consent is actually the act of saying yes. No does not mean maybe, and then pursue me until I cave. And a passed out girl, a drunk girl, can't give consent. An emotionally bullied into a relationship girl? Nope. Not consensual either. We should also be teaching our boys the dangers of the double standard, that notches on the bedpost are not the measure of a man. Even though popular culture would have us believe that a man takes what he wants, he doesn't. A man woos what he desires. He may be an alpha, but that doesn't mean he's an abuser and an asshole. What's the perfect woman in these books? Well, Bella and Anastasia are virginal. Anastasia has a very rare case of sensitive nipples, which make her go straight to orgasm. No gag reflex, and she forgives all. It's the perfect woman, right? Wuthering Heights was published in 1847. Catherine was loved by her father and she wanted the good life. She picked Linton, even though her soulmate, her other half, was Heathcliff. She was selfish. He was a Byronic character. He's judgmental and just broody at first. Though we don't really know what happens to them. What happened to him. He's kind of just an outcast and an orphan. And after Catherine's death, he becomes obsessed and he's abusive with Linton's child. Back then, women were usually married off and they didn't have much say in who they were going to be married to. The concept of romantic love was just developing and was nowhere near what it means today. The first Twilight novel came out in 2005. There's no excuse here. When romantic love is what Disney tells us what it is. They fall in love at first sight and live happily ever after. There's no work required, it's just done. Edward didn't need Bella's death to become obsessive. He was just broody and a stalker right off the bat. Then 50 Shades hits the stands in 2011, and Christian was not just broody, but a stalker, and only ever had relationships that were governed by BDSM contracts. First, where he was a submissive to Mrs. Robinson type character, and then where he found his preference when he became a dominant. Neither Bella nor Anastasia have much to say in their relationships. They kind of just literally and figuratively lie there and have stuff done to them. Women burned their bras in the 70s to secure our right to say no. And not to be called cock teasers while doing so, but to be able to make decisions for ourselves. So on the one side, it's an absolute step back, but one good thing can be said for the 70 million copies sold of 50 Shades of Grey, and that's that women dare to read it on public transportation and dare to make it known to the world that female sexuality and desire exists. And talking about or reading about what turns you on is nothing to be ashamed of. So according to studies, it's helped a lot of marriages. Just talking about sex can actually help a couple get out of a rut, maybe caused by kids and stress and everyday life. So sex isn't just like a scheduled affair. In better cases, Mondays and Fridays, and in worse cases, once a year on somebody's birthday. Mummy porn kicks arousal into gear. That leads to desire, hopefully for the significant other. And it lets wives express the need for variety of sexual positions, and talking about it will hopefully lead to a conversation with the partner where shame is forgotten and self-esteem can grow and desires are fulfilled and nourished, leading to fewer inhibitions and more sexual intelligence. While all this is true about 50 Shades of Grey, giving us a new, like in the 90s, let's talk about sex era, the whole damsel in distress thing brings it down. I love the internet meme that says, I'm not a princess, I'm a queen, and I have my shit handled. So that's my little social commentary of these books. Okay, and then now what? Does that mean that abused kids, when they grow up, have no chance of working healthy relationships? No. They just need lots of work to get there. But we are talking about extreme cases of abuse in the 50 Shades of Grey series, and Christian does no work in it. If you've been paying attention, I haven't really mentioned the Crossfire series yet. So how does Sylvia Day work out Eva's story? Eva was sexually abused as a child, so we are finally not talking about some typical one-dimensional character like Bella and Anastasia. The blurb of the book is, he was beautiful and brilliant, jagged and white hot. I was drawn to him as I'd never been to anything or anyone in my life. I craved his touch like a drug, even knowing it would weaken me. I was flawed and damaged, and he opened those cracks in me so easily. Gideon knew, and he had demons of his own, and we would become the mirrors that reflected each other's most private wounds and desires. The bonds of his love transformed me, even as I prayed that the torment of our pasts didn't tear us apart. Eva has done the work with psychologists after her childhood abuse, and finally getting out of her own abusive relationship in her late teens, early 20s, to get to a place where she's comfortable enough to love herself, to respect herself, to not accept a new abusive relationship, she meets Gideon. Not to be a dependent, but to stand on her own 2 feet. And their story does leave you with a desire for the bad boy, but her character didn't have me tearing my hair out. So that's the first 3 books, and I can't wait for the last 2 installments to see Gideon do his work and find healthy sexuality. So basically what I'm saying is that Wuthering Heights for me is a 10 out of 10. It's a classic. Twilight and 50 Shades are 6 out of 10s, and the first 3 Crossfire novels for me are again a 10 out of 10. Thanks for listening to my review. I hope you enjoyed. Click on the like. Come back and visit us soon. Thanks. Subscribe to our channel. Bye.